Inspiring single mom of twins discovers lost wallet on flight. CEO reveals the incredible truth. Jessica settled into her cramped airplane seat, the weight of her world pressing down on her. She glanced at her phone, the screen lit up with messages from her twins, their innocent faces a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in her mind. The din of the cabin served as a backdrop to the gnawing worry in her gut. She was on her way to visit her father in the hospital, his health faltering, and her financial situation deteriorating. With bills piling up and shifts at the diner slipping through her fingers like sand, every day felt like a precarious balancing act. Sudden turbulence jolted her from her thoughts, and instinctively, her hand shot beneath the seat. With a quiet gasp, she grasped a forgotten wallet. The leather was worn, edges fraying, and she hesitated before pulling it into her lap. Just as she feared, inside were crisp bills, glimmering like a mirage, money that could cover groceries, the rent, or perhaps buy her son that pair of shoes he desperately needed. But alongside the cash was an ID belonging to a local CEO, a name she recognized. A moral tempest erupted within her. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. He always told her that integrity was the foundation of success. Could she betray those values for a fleeting moment of relief? What would her children think if they discovered their mother succumbed to desperation? Unease pooled within her as she squeezed the wallet tighter, weighing her options. The cash glittered temptingly, humming with the promise of immediate solace. Feeling her heart race, she envisioned how it would feel to walk into their tiny house, the weight of impending eviction lifted. The twins would never know hardship. But honesty, could she really forsake her morals? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the plane rattled again, her breath quickened. This was not just about her, this was about her family's future. With a surge of resolve, she pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling as she prepared to connect with the CEO. What were the odds he'd care about a single mother's struggle? But when he answered, his voice was warm and inviting. His story of climbing from nothing struck a chord deep within her. He, too, learned to navigate uncertainties, finding the strength in vulnerability. Here, on this flight, their hearts began to intersect, a budding connection that sparked hope, shadowed by doubt. She wondered, could someone with such privilege truly understand her plight? As they shared laughter and tears, her insecurities loomed large. She felt like an imposter, drowning in an overwhelming sense of unworthiness. Just as she was about to voice her fears, the plane jolted again, an ominous reminder of the turbulence in her life. The opportunity for mentorship hung in the air, precariously balanced with her overwhelming doubts. Could she rise above the despair that held her captive, or would she let it crush her dreams? Each moment pulled taut, she had to act. This was just the beginning of her fight. Jessica's heart raced as she exchanged words with the CEO. The warmth in his voice contrasted sharply with the frigid fears that gripped her. For every anecdote he shared about his rise from obscurity, she felt a growing urgency to share her own story, the burden she carried, the fear of failure that loomed like a specter over her. Each tale of adversity he recounted mirrored struggles she faced but dared not articulate. "Your journey resonates with me," she finally managed to say, her voice barely rising above the sound of the engines. "But I feel like I'm drowning. Every time I think I can catch my breath, something else pulls me under." The CEO paused, allowing silence to envelop them, making time feel suspended. "It's natural to feel overwhelmed," he replied gently. "But those moments of doubt? They can transform into your greatest motivation." His response triggered an internal debate within her. Could her struggle fuel a fire that ignited change? The notion sent shudders of hope rippling through her. It was as if he could sense the flicker of determination that had begun to spark in the depths of her despair. As the conversation flowed, she found herself disclosing more how she balanced 2 jobs while raising twins, how she watched bills pile up, each reminder of her inadequacy slicing through her resolve. The wallet, once an embodiment of temptation, now faded behind the clarity of self-awareness she was stumbling into. "Tell me about the best decision you ever made," Jessica asked, her curiosity piquing. "Was there a moment where you knew you had to put everything on the line?" His story was both humbling and invigorating. He revealed a time when he chose to invest everything he had into a venture that nearly cost him his family. It was a choice that shook her deeply. His success hadn't come wrapped in certainty but in calculated risks, born from an unwavering belief in one's own potential. "I learned to embrace my failures," he explained, "to pivot and adapt. Growth happens in discomfort." Her fingers tightened around her phone, his words curling in her stomach with a warmth of possibility. She felt the vibrant flicker of ambition juxtaposed against the icy grip of fear. What if she, too, could adapt? It was more than just self-improvement, it was about reclaiming agency over her narrative. I want to take steps forward, towards something better," she confessed, the words tumbling out before hesitation could stifle them. "But I don't know where to start." "Start with what you have in front of you," he urged. "Use that wallet as a bridge, not a crutch. Return it, and let that act define your path. People like me want to help those fighting like you are." His conviction ignited a fire in her that she hadn't felt in years. Amid the uncertainty and chaos of her life, a small but growing sense of direction took hold. Could returning the wallet lead to new opportunities, internal growth, and perhaps even a network of support she never knew existed? As the plane began its descent, a sense of clarity emerged amidst the swirling emotions. She might be a single mother facing insurmountable odds, but she also had the power to rewrite her story. With every heartbeat, she confronted the question that loomed larger than ever: what kind of life did she want to carve out for herself and her children? Just as the plane touched down, Jessica's resolve hardened into a plan. If this was the beginning of her fight, she couldn't afford to waste any more time hesitating. The moment the doors opened, she breathed deeply, setting her resolve to take action immediately. But as she stepped onto the tarmac, a message popped up on her phone, an unexpected text that would change the entire trajectory of her plans. As Jessica stepped off the plane, her heart raced at the thought of what she might uncover. The text that blinked on her screen was from an unknown number, simply stating, "Meet me at the cafe across from baggage claim. I have something for you." A rush of adrenaline coursed through her veins. It felt as if the universe was responding to her newfound determination. Her fingers hesitated over the screen as she considered her options. Part of her wanted to ignore the message, to continue on her path of taking charge of her life, but another part, a more impulsive part, urged her to find out more. After all, wasn't he stepping into the unknown one of the very risks she had decided to embrace? With a deep breath, Jessica made her way to the cafe. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air, mingling with the bright chatter of travelers. She scanned the room, heart pounding. An older woman in a well-tailored business suit waved her over. "Jessica, right? I'm Lisa, part of the leadership team at your company." Jessica nodded, her stomach twisting in a mix of excitement and anxiety. "I wanted to get a hold of you because I heard about your situation with the wallet," Lisa continued, her eyes sharp yet kind. "It doesn't happen often, but your honesty made an impression on someone." Jessica felt a flicker of confusion. "Someone? What do you mean?" "Let me explain," Lisa said, gesturing for Jessica to sit. "We have a mentorship program in the company, and I think you'd be a perfect candidate. Your willingness to return that wallet shows integrity. We're looking to invest in individuals who show potential." The idea struck her like a bolt of lightning. A mentorship? Could this be the opportunity she had been searching for? But the familiar seeds of doubt quickly took root. "I'm not sure if I'm the right fit," Jessica replied hesitantly. "I'm a single mother working 2 jobs. How could I ever juggle that with a mentorship? Life is going to challenge you regardless, Lisa replied. You can choose to grow alongside those challenges or let them define you. You have the potential to thrive, you just need the right support system around you. Jessica's mind raced with the implications. This was more than just a chance at professional growth, it was an opportunity to learn, to redefine her identity, and to anchor herself in a network that could uplift her. Yet, the old fears grasped at her with icy fingers. Was she ready for such a leap? Could she manage the demand of time and emotional energy that would come with it? Let me think about it, Jessica said finally, her voice steadier than she felt inside. Of course. But remember, the door won't stay open forever, Lisa cautioned, her gaze steady and encouraging. A decision needs to be made. What do you want your future to look like? Jessica left the cafe, her thoughts swirling like a tempest. The decision weighed heavily on her. It was not just about accepting an opportunity, but about stepping into a new version of herself, one that demanded courage and commitment. Her heart began to race again, this time not from fear but from the exhilarating possibility of what could be. She felt an urge to talk this through with someone, to be vulnerable and ask for advice. Perhaps it was time to reach out to the CEO who had inadvertently ignited this awakening within her. But as she pulled out her phone, she hesitated. Should she expose her vision and fears to someone who, just hours ago, had appeared as an untouchable figure? Would this person stand behind her or dim the flicker of hope that was growing? In that moment of uncertainty, she realized a fundamental truth about herself: every choice defined her, and each decision carried the weight of not only her ambitions but the future she wanted for her children. With a new sense of purpose, she began typing a message to the CEO, ready to ask for guidance but uncertain of what might unfold. As she hit send, a familiar question swept through her mind: could this choice lead her even further down the path of transformation? Just as she pressed send, her phone buzzed again. It was a news alert about a looming opportunity in her industry that promised to shift the landscape dramatically. Would this be the change she had been waiting for? Jessica's determination solidified, her next step awaited, and as her heart filled with resolve, she wondered if this moment would indeed change everything. Jessica paced in her small apartment, the news alert still fresh in her mind. The potential shift in her industry could be a game changer, a lifeline for her career aspirations and a means to a better future for her children. Yet, the idea of a mentorship lingered, pulling at her like an unyielding current. It was as if her life had stepped into a narrative that was both thrilling and terrifying, forcing her to confront her own doubts. She glanced at the message she had sent to the CEO, anxious for a reply. The imminent response would either validate her leap into this new realm or further entrench her fears. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up her phone, her mind racing with possibilities. What would the mentorship involve? What skills would she need to cultivate? Could she balance both her responsibilities and the demands of a mentor? With each question, she felt a wave of determination emerging. It wasn't enough to just survive, she wanted to thrive. Diving deeper into her thoughts, she recognized a critical point in her life where she needed to redefine what work-life balance truly meant. It was no longer just about managing time, it was about transforming her approach to challenges. Could she learn to prioritize her ambitions without compromising her family? After a few moments of reflection, she began to jot down her thoughts for the CEO. In her message, Jessica recognized the conflict between her fears and aspirations. She wrote about her eagerness to embrace mentorship, the desire to learn from industry leaders, and how much she yearned for guidance to navigate her shifting landscape. The words flowed as she articulated not just her qualifications, but her potential, which now felt palpable and urgent. With her message poised to send, Jessica hesitated one more time, considering her narrative. Would she portray herself as someone who expected success handed down to her? Or could she emphasize her resilience, her readiness to tackle new challenges head-on? She chose to be the latter, someone who demanded growth while acknowledging her past struggles. As she pressed send, a familiar feeling washed over her, a mix of nervousness and exhilaration. This was no ordinary correspondence. It was a commitment to herself, a pledge to step beyond her comfort zone even if it felt like she was teetering on the edge. Moments passed before her phone buzzed again. It was a response from the CEO, brief yet filled with promise. "Thank you for reaching out. Let's discuss in more detail at our meeting next week." The anticipation of that meeting ignited her resolve. But then a wave of inner dialogue surged. What if she faltered? What if she revealed more than she was ready to handle under scrutiny? Jessica recognized that this was the crux of her transformation. To go forward, she had to confront not just her fears but also the very foundation of her self-perceptions. This opportunity could propel her towards a future she didn't dare dream of, or could reinforce the boundaries she had confining herself for so long. The following days were a whirlwind of preparation, balancing her 2 jobs while poring over industry reports and potential mentorship materials. Each evening, she'd settle on her worn sofa, flipping through pages, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. She found herself wondering more about what support her children might need during this period. They too had sacrifices to make. Yet, despite the rising flame of determination, shadows of doubt crept in. What if she encountered roadblocks she couldn't overcome? She toyed with the idea of reaching out to peers in her industry who had walked similar paths, wanting insights to fortify her. Each day was filled with the push and pull of ambition versus anxiety. The day of the meeting arrived, bringing a mixture of excitement and dread. As she stood before the mirror adjusting her blouse, her reflection stared back at her, a version of herself she barely recognized, poised for potential yet tethered by apprehensions. Though her heart raced, she took a deep breath, reminding herself of the strength she'd exhibited in the past. "This is about becoming who you're meant to be, Jessica," she murmured to herself. With renewed focus, she headed toward the office. Could this meeting be the threshold she had been searching for, or would the fear of failure keep her tethered to the past? The elevator chimed, and as she stepped out, the bustling atmosphere of the office contrasted sharply with her inner turmoil. It was time to confront the unknown. The choice was clear yet daunting. But as she moved through the office corridors, one thought lingered: would this meeting open the door to the transformative possibilities she desperately sought? Jessica stepped into the conference room, the polished surface of the table reflecting the artificial lights above. She noticed her nerves intensifying. The laughter of a team meeting in the adjacent room felt like distant thunderclouds, threatening to rain on her carefully curated resolve. She breathed in deeply, reminding herself that this was a moment she had yearned for, a catalyst for change that could alter the trajectory of her career. Seated at the far end of the table was the CEO, a commanding presence whose reputation preceded him. His expression was welcoming yet keenly observant, as if he were assessing not just her capabilities but her very essence. Jessica pulled up a chair and sat down, palms resting flat on the smooth surface, trying to project confidence. "Jessica, it's great to finally meet you," he began, his tone warm enough to disarm her anxieties, yet authoritative enough to anchor her attention. "Thank you for having me," she replied, her voice more confident than she felt. But beneath her composed exterior, her thoughts raced. What if I stumble? What if he sees through my facade? "Your reputation for hard work and tenacity has caught my attention," he continued, "but I want to know what drives you. What do you envision for your future?" The question sliced straight to her core. Hesitation froze her, forcing her to grapple with the myriad of fears and desires that had spiraled in her head. This wasn't just about a job, it was about transformation and identity. Summoning every ounce of courage, she spoke from a place of sincerity: "I want to redefine what success means for me. It's not just about career advancement, it's about setting an example for my children. I want them to see me striving, not merely surviving." The CEO nodded, his expression shifting slightly, perhaps impressed by her authentic vulnerability. "That's a commendable vision. But tell me how you plan to bridge the gap between that vision and reality. What skills do you think you need to thrive in this new landscape? His inquiry felt like a spotlight shining on her perceived deficiencies. The fear returned, a familiar specter whispering self-doubt into her ear. She had to execute a calculated response, one that not only answered his question but also showcased her strategic thinking. I believe I need to enhance my leadership skills and my understanding of emerging technologies in our industry. I'm prepared to invest my time into those areas, and I would appreciate guidance. The words hung in the air between them. She had laid her ambitions bare, and now the anticipation of his judgment loomed large. He leaned back in his chair, evidently considering the weight of her message. Ambition is vital, but I must challenge you to embrace failure as well. It's part of the learning curve. Are you ready to encounter challenges that shape you? His question ignited a flicker of doubt, but it also burrowed into her psyche with a promise of potential growth. I've faced challenges before. I know how to adapt. The only real failure would be refusing to learn from those trials, she asserted, channeling her resolve. Good. I admire that perspective. His eyes narrowed slightly, piercing through the professional jargon. But remember, the path you choose may require you to confront uncomfortable realities about your capabilities. Are you prepared for that? Jessica felt the challenge curl around her, a reality check that felt more like a dare. The discourse began to shift from just interview to exploration. They were no longer simply discussing her qualifications, they were venturing into her inner depths. I want this mentorship to dissect my preconceived limits and help me push past them, she affirmed, feeling an exhilarating sense of ownership over her narrative. As their dialogue continued, Jessica found herself growing ever more immersed in this mental clash, confronting the cautious pragmatism sleeping within her. She recognized that embracing her vulnerabilities didn't make her weak, instead, it presented opportunities for profound growth. Their meeting concluded sooner than she anticipated. With the ebbing sense of formal conversation, the CEO extended an invitation. If you're willing to extend yourself, I can connect you with a few mentors who will challenge you in ways you haven't experienced before. But you must be ready to take the plunge. Jessica felt her heart racing at the prospect, a blend of fear and excitement tingling in her fingertips. It wasn't just the opportunity she coveted but the unknown factors that lay ahead. These were both thrilling and daunting. As she exited the office, the crisp air hit her like a revelation. She had crossed into the realm of possibility, but the glimmer of doubt remained, nestled in the corners of her hope. The road before her looked fraught with uncertainties and challenges, but amidst the chaos, one question lingered: would she be able to harness this newfound momentum and sustain the courage necessary to confront the trials ahead? Jessica stood at her desk, reviewing the notes she had taken during her meeting with the CEO. Her mind was still wrapped around his words, an intricate tapestry of challenge and possibility weaving through her thoughts. The promise of mentorship felt like a life buoy thrown into turbulent seas, a chance to navigate the unpredictable waters of her career. However, the weight of the leap weighed heavily on her heart. She glanced at her calendar, filled with a mix of deadlines and family obligations. The twins' upcoming school play added a personal layer to her stress. Her role as a mother often clashed with her aspirations, and the dynamic was a source of constant tension. Soon, she would have to balance her evolving ambitions with the need to nurture her children, who were growing ever more aware of her aspirations. Determined to tackle this head-on, she created a plan. During her lunch break, she made her way to a nearby coffee shop, a quieter space where she could think. With a steaming cup of coffee in hand, she opened her laptop and began researching leadership training and technology courses. The task was exhilarating, each click felt empowering. She was no longer just an employee, she was a woman on a mission. As the days turned into weeks, Jessica enrolled in an online leadership course focusing on emerging technologies. The first module was challenging, unraveling assumptions she didn't even know she had. She struggled with concepts that felt foreign, but each struggle was a lesson in perseverance. With every piece of knowledge gained, she fought against her imposter syndrome, those insistent whispers that questioned her worthiness. Even as she dove deeper into these studies, a reality awaited her at home. After a long day, she returned to a house echoing with the lively chatter of her twins. Their joy sparked warmth in her heart, yet the pressure to be both a mother and a rising professional loomed like a heavy cloud. She drew strength from their innocence and laughter but knew she needed to set boundaries to protect her time for growth. One evening, after tucking the kids in, Jessica pulled out her course materials again, the glow of her laptop illuminating her increasingly determined expression. The lesson that night centered on risk-taking, a concept she realized she needed to embody fully. If she wanted her children to see her strive for success, she had to actively demonstrate that pursuit, even if the journey was daunting. With the mentorship offer still fresh in her mind, she reached out to the CEO's assistant the next morning, requesting introductions to the mentors. Step by step, she was stepping out of her comfort zone, and although the fear of inadequacy crept in, it was matched by the urgency of her aspirations. However, when the introductions came through, Jessica's heart raced. One of her mentors would be a leading figure in artificial intelligence, a realm she limited to her reading, never imagining she would interact with someone so influential. The thought sent a flurry of anxiety coursing through her, challenging her belief that she could hold her own in such company. As she prepared for the first meeting, she grappled with her preparations. Would she suffocate under their brilliance, or would she rise to meet them? Each click of her pen on paper felt like a countdown. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be a transformative moment or a profound lesson in humility. The day arrived, and Jessica sat at her desk, staring at the time. Her breath quickened. This was her chance to stretch beyond her limits, yet the thought of failure loomed large. What if she didn't measure up? Yet, amidst the rising tide of anxiety, one conviction stood firm: she would not shy away from this opportunity. As the video call began, her heart thudded against her chest, and the screen flickered to life. Would she seize this moment and ignite her journey for growth, or would she falter? The answer awaited them both in the unfolding conversation. Jessica's heart raced as the video call connected. The screen lit up with faces framed in professional settings, their expressions a mixture of poised confidence and genuine curiosity. The mentor representing artificial intelligence, Dr. Elena Carter, exuded a commanding presence, her reputation preceding her. A wave of dread washed over Jessica, battling against the burning ambition igniting within her. "Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica," she managed to say, her voice surprisingly steady. The first few moments dispelled some of the tension. They exchanged introductory pleasantries, and for an instant, Jessica felt a flicker of camaraderie. As the conversation progressed, Jessica tuned into their discussions about industry trends, upcoming innovations, and pivotal strategies for success. Dr. Carter led the conversation with a magnetic ease, sharing insights that dazzled Jessica. It was evident that she commanded the knowledge and experience of a titan in her field. Yet as each moment passed, Jessica felt the walls of her comfort zone closing in. When given the chance to ask questions, she hesitated. Her mind fired away, flooded with inquiries, yet the fear of sounding uninformed held her back. The imposter syndrome tightened its grip. What could she possibly contribute to these giants of the industry? The truth hit her: this moment demanded action. With steely resolve, Jessica summoned her courage. "What do you believe is the biggest challenge facing our industry right now?" The question slipped out, a small slice of active engagement, yet it opened a dialogue that rolled forward with surprising momentum. Dr. Carter smiled, clearly pleased by the question. "Great question, Jessica. I think we're faced with a rapid evolution in technology, and the challenge isn't just adapting but also leading the way in responsible innovation." The discussion unfolded, driven by Jessica's growing confidence. Thoughts began marching forward, unshackling ideas buried deep under doubt. She articulated her perspective, weaving in her recent course learnings on risk-taking and innovation. Each time her voice melded with the conversations around her, she felt the weight of inadequacy dissipate like mist. But amidst the exhilaration, an unsettling thought lurked: was she merely riding a wave rather than creating one? This question gnawed at her even as a burst of enthusiasm ignited in her chest. There was a fine line between participating and truly belonging. She needed to confront that distinction. By the end of the call, Jessica realized she had navigated an ocean of intelligence and experience. It was not just survival, but emergence. She soaked in the feedback given by her peers, their words a reassurance of her capabilities. After the call, as she stared at her computer screen, she felt a profound shift. She was no longer merely a spectator of her destiny, she had taken an assertive step into her future. Yet, there was also an underlying concern bubbling beneath the surface of her triumph. Would she be able to maintain this momentum, or would her family commitments draw her back into the depths of self-doubt? The twins' school play was right around the corner, and she couldn't escape the ticking clock of motherhood pressing against the thrill of professional engagement. The internal conflict intensified. Should she prioritize her family's expectations, fulfilling her role as a supportive mother, or should she continue to chase after the burgeoning aspirations that felt more vivid with each passing moment despite the potential aftermath of her choices? Just when she thought her thoughts couldn't spiral any further, her phone pinged with a new message. The words on the screen brought another layer of alarm, an invitation to speak at an upcoming tech panel. Jessica's stomach dropped, her heart racing with both dread and excitement. This was an opportunity she yearned for, yet couldn't fathom how to execute. What would she choose to do next? Would she step into the spotlight once more or revert back to a familiar shadow? The scales tipped precariously, and she was left with no choice but to decide how far she was willing to go for her profound transformation. Jessica stared at her phone, the dim light reflecting her unease. The invitation loomed large, at once daunting and electrifying. It grappled with her conflicting desires. The tech panel was an opportunity she had dreamed of, but the prospect of public speaking sent a jolt of anxiety through her. Could she face the crowd? Could she articulate her thoughts clearly amidst a sea of established professionals? The answer dissected her thoughts methodically. She could feel that familiar tension knotting its way through her chest, a reminder of her fears. In contrast, the echoes of validation from the recent video call whispered against her doubts like a chorus urging her forward. She was capable. She had participated in insightful discussions with industry leaders. Yet this moment felt different. It was a stage, a spotlight that would expose her vulnerabilities to a larger audience. Her children's voices broke into her contemplation, their laughter floating from the living room. "Mommy! Look at our costumes!" The twins were excited for their upcoming school play, buzzing with adorable innocence. As she watched them, a wave of warmth enveloped her. They represented everything she had fought for, everything she wanted to succeed for, not just as a professional, but as a mother. But could she truly balance both worlds? All at once, it seemed impossible. She bit her lower lip, her mind caught in a whirlwind. The tech panel could elevate her career, but would her commitment to family falter if she seized this opportunity? Each time she had ventured out of her comfort zone, she had carved out new pathways for herself, but she feared losing precious time with her children, and wasting opportunities would only solidify her inner critic's voice. As she mulled over her options, a thought ignited. What if she approached this speaking engagement with the same energy she had experienced during the call with Dr. Carter? Why not frame it as a chance to share her journey as a working mother in tech, intertwining personal and professional narratives? Suddenly, potential filled her mind, a way to merge her roles. What if her story inspired other women navigating similar dilemmas? Filled with a tentative sense of purpose, Jessica opened her laptop and began to jot down ideas. Each word she typed felt like groundbreaking, like the foundation of a bridge spanning her dual roles. The more she wrote, the more she doubted. Could she really speak with authority, blending her motherhood narrative with professional aspirations? Would the audience resonate with her struggles as they listened to her speak? The fear of imperfection lurked in the wings, attempting to claim her resolve. But recalling the energy and enthusiasm ignited during the call, she pushed forward. She could weave her experiences into a message of resilience, innovation, and balance. This wasn't merely about her skills in technology, it was also about the journey, the sacrifices, and the triumphs that shaped who she was. Hours slid by, and as night cloaked the sky outside her window, Jessica stepped away from the screen, exhausted yet exhilarated. She had drafted an outline for her talk, one that honored both her professional journey and the beautiful chaos of motherhood. Each line ignited a semblance of confidence as it illuminated her unique perspective. Then, with an air of resolve settling within her, she slipped her phone into her pocket and joined her children. Tonight would be a night for laughter and storytelling, a balance she intended to master. As her kids captivated her with their idyllic narratives, a sharp ping once again interrupted her thoughts. It was a message from Dr. Carter, asking if Jessica would consider an additional mentorship session to discuss her upcoming talk. Her heart raced. This could be the guidance she desperately needed. What insights might Dr. Carter impart to refine her message? With emotions swirling, Jessica faced a turning point. Could she merge her mentor's wisdom with her narrative to elevate her confidence before taking the stage? The decision had to be made. Should she embrace the mentorship or risk venturing into this talk alone? The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting golden rays across Jessica's workspace. She had barely slept, thoughts racing through her mind like a whirlpool. The invitation to speak at the tech panel had set her heart afire with both excitement and dread. Each tick of the clock seemed to echo her insecurities. Just as she had resolved to embrace the mentorship, self-doubt crawled back into her consciousness. What do I even have to say that would matter? She murmured to herself, fingers poised above her keyboard, yet she hesitated to type. She remembered the crucial moments when inspiration had struck during various conversations, simple, honest exchanges that held immense power. Could she capture that essence for the panel? Suddenly, the stakes felt staggeringly high. With increasing urgency, Jessica decided to call Dr. Carter. As the phone rang, her insides churned. She envisioned the seasoned executive listening, assessing her every word. Had she implied too much fragility? Too little preparedness? The moment Dr. Carter's voice came through warm and encouraging, her nerves began to ease. Jessica, the blend of your career and motherhood is a powerful narrative. But remember, it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. Share your truth, Dr. Carter affirmed. Each word anchored Jessica deeper into her conviction. Was it really that simple? Perhaps within her perceived chaos lay the authenticity that could resonate with the audience. Their conversation flowed freely. It wasn't merely about refining her message, but about giving herself permission to be vulnerable. The professional facade had often become a barrier, but now it felt like a costume she could escape. By sharing her ups and downs, she could bridge the divide between personal experience and professional competence. Once they hung up, Jessica felt a flicker of excitement ignite within her. She immediately returned to her outline. Inspiration surged through her veins as she crafted stories from her life that interwove elements of technology and motherhood. The pressure felt a little lighter now. It transformed into a challenge she was ready to face. She started envisioning the audience, wives, mothers, daughters, all experiencing their own struggles, and her heart raced at the thought of sharing her story. Despite the lingering specter of doubt, she began concocting a new angle for her talk, focused on authenticity in tech but also about being a woman with passions divided. She envisioned herself confidently stepping on that stage, not as an imposter, but as a trailblazer willing to showcase a pathway that might inspire others. As the days passed, she practiced in front of her children, who cheered her on. Their unfiltered reactions acted like a mirror, offering insights that clarified her message. Instead of merely speaking to impress a room of professionals, she aimed to strike a chord within those grappling with the demanding dualities of their lives. The journey of figuring out that balance became part of the larger story her audience needed to hear. However, even as newfound confidence blossomed, Jessica noticed shadows creeping back in. What if her narrative failed to impress the established tech leaders? What if she faltered and lost her audience? Each what if felt tangible, threatening to derail her momentum. But then came another message from Dr. Carter, a simple note that read, "Trust yourself." It stirred a sense of conviction deep within her. Hadn't she already faced incredible challenges? The fear of judgment was powerful, but so was the desire to bring forth change through her story. She felt the ground shift beneath her. The stakes weren't solely about her performance, they were about connecting with every woman carved from a similar fabric. Jessica settled back into her work, much more focused than ever before. She saw a future ahead where her voice might empower others leaping towards their ambitions. This pivotal moment felt exhilarating. Yet, beneath the surface, apprehension still gnawed at her psyche. Time raced towards the day of the panel, and with it came the chilling question, was she truly ready to reveal the vulnerabilities beneath her polished exterior? As she logged off for the night, a message popped up from an unknown number, a short, cryptic text, "Are you sure you want to go through with this? You don't need to." The invitation to doubt hung ominously before her. Would she give in, retreat into self-preservation, or would she confront this call for caution head-on? Jessica stood in her living room, the message flashing on her phone demanding immediate attention. The unsettling implication of doubt twisted her stomach. Hadn't she already defined her path forward? She had forged connections, solidified her voice, and cultivated an empowering narrative. Yet, the motivation and clarity that had ignited within her now felt precarious against this unexpected challenge. Pacing the floor, she replayed her recent milestones, the enlightening conversations with Dr. Carter, the mentorship awaiting her embrace, the opportunity to speak at the tech panel. Each moment had contributed to a burgeoning confidence. This was a transformative season, one where she had chosen to stretch beyond old bounds, yet here she was, standing at the precipice once again. Taking a deep breath, she allowed a moment of reflection. The fear that powered this ominous message was a familiar specter, one she had come to recognize as part of any ambitious endeavor. It was the internal resistance all individuals faced on the brink of change, the discomfort that masked itself as caution, the shadow lurking just when she was ready to shine. She recalled a lesson learned through her leadership course: doubt can be a catalyst for growth if harnessed appropriately. Perhaps she could turn this whisper of trepidation into a motivational force. Starting today, she would actively dismantle the barriers that constrained her from evolving. With renewed resolve, Jessica opened her laptop and began typing a response to the unknown sender. "I've come too far to turn back now. I'm ready for this." As she hit send, she felt a weight lift. Reframing her doubts transformed the disruption into determination, igniting her passion for the goals she was pursuing. The day of the panel arrived, and Jessica stood in front of the mirror adorned in a fitted blazer that embodied her newfound acuity. Each reflection carved out a new version of herself, a woman ready to own the room. As she gathered her materials, thoughts of her twins flooded her mind. Would they be proud? Would they see her not only as their mother but as an inspiration? Their unwavering belief in her potential served as an anchor against any lingering concerns. Arriving at the venue, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Seasoned professionals mingled, exchanging ideas as they prepared to share insights. Jessica's heart raced, but it wasn't fear that coursed through her. It was the electric thrill of possibility. She fortified herself with the reminder that this wasn't just a speech, it was a conversation about real struggles, authenticity, and bridging gaps between the demands of motherhood and professional aspirations. The host called her name, and as she stepped onto the stage, a wave of nervous energy washed over her. She could almost hear her children chanting her name in their childish enthusiasm. The spotlight was warm, but Jessica felt cool clarity accompany her as she recalled the culmination of her journey, the adventures, challenges, and networks that led her here. Hello everyone. I'm Jessica, and I want to talk about the complexity of navigating technology and motherhood, she began, a steady strength emanating from her voice. She embarked on her narrative, weaving in personal anecdotes that painted a vivid picture of her experiences, the relentless juggling that came with single parenthood, the fear of failing in both realms, and the eventual decision to reclaim her power through mentorship. Each word carried purpose, igniting moments of resonance within the audience. She was no longer constrained by fear, she was breaking through barriers that had held her captive in silence. The unpolished authenticity of her journey connected with faces in the crowd. She watched as the lines of apprehension faded from their expressions, replaced by nods of recognition and solidarity. With every question she answered, every point illustrated through heartfelt stories, she felt the camaraderie grow. Those in the audience weren't just tech professionals, they were individuals navigating their journeys, wrestling with expectations, much like she had. And this realization struck her: her journey wasn't solely her own, it lived in the shared stories of many. When she concluded her talk, a wave of applause resonated, streaking through the room and lifting her spirit higher. It wasn't just praise, it was recognition of the hard-won journey, of grappling with vulnerability while articulating inherent strength. The echoes of support reverberated through her soul, a definitive acknowledgement of growth and achievement. After the event, connections blossomed like wildfire. Fellow professionals approached with encouraging words and shared experiences. She secured invitations for future panels, opportunities for collaborative projects, and, importantly, open dialogues on mentorship for mothers in the tech field. Most poignantly, as she walked away with a new sense of belonging, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from her twins, their giddy excitement pouring through the screen. "Mom, we saw you on the live stream. You were amazing." The smile that broke across her face was a reflection of fulfilled aspirations. She had proven to herself and her children that ambition and motherhood weren't mutually exclusive. She had emerged victorious. Jessica had not just shared a narrative, she had built a platform of empowerment forged from her experiences. The path ahead glittered with opportunities that merged her roles seamlessly. She felt not just successful but fulfilled, fully embodying her identity as a woman, a mother, and a rising tech professional. Jessica had conquered her fears and stepped into her power, effortlessly bridging the pivotal aspects of her existence. No longer was she defined by the challenges before her, she was the architect of her own destiny. Empowered by these transformative experiences, Jessica knew it was time to create a community, a network that could uplift other women seeking the same balance she thrived on. It was a future unmarred by limits. Today marked not only an achievement but the dawn of a mission to inspire others to step into their own light. Now is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories and unfoldings of triumph like Jessica's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, as it truly makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this stunning conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming tales understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.